Hi.
How's it going, everybody? Let me ask you this. How many of you guys out there are familiar with Andrew Breitbart? Okay. If you aren't, I highly recommend you read his book, Righteous Indignation, and that you watch a few of his speeches where he kind of lays out the fight that we're in. The title of this panel here is The Rise of the New Media Class. And what Andrew Breitbart laid out for us over a decade ago was the fight to he laid out the problems with the establishment media, but more importantly than that, how do we beat them and how do we change the game and fix this and build a new media? And I'm here to tell you guys we are winning the war. I actually have a few statistics that I want to pull up and read to you guys because I think these are really important. Now, like a good journalist, I'm going to cite my source for you. So these come from Facebook. These are Facebook's company called CrowdTangle. These are data that lay out the total number of interactions over the course of the last year, July 2021 to July 2022. The following companies, I'll start with Politico. Politico had 8.26 million interactions over the course of the last year. Respectable, but not that great. The Los Angeles Times, 10.37 million. The Washington Post, 46.66 million. And the New York Times had 83.45 million. Breitbart, we beat them all combined. We had 172.78 million interactions across Facebook in the last year combined. We are winning this war. So how do we do it? We built an institution where we hired young people. We have about 100 people that work at Breitbart around the country and around the world. And we've brought these folks in. We've given them jobs. We've given them careers. These other guys here who are on stage with me, Brandon Morse and Julio Rosas, their institutions, RedState and Townhall, also similarly have built these career paths for young people. So I want to throw it to you guys. Brandon, can you tell us a little bit about what RedState is, what you guys do, how, and a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. So RedState is kind of unique. It's kind of a personality-driven opinion news site. Where people come in to read their favorite authors all the time and what they have to say and what they have to think. And honestly, it's one of the coolest websites I've ever worked at, strictly because it gives me the ability to say what I want, when I want, how I want. And it has developed a personality all on its own just based off of that. Some of the most amazing writers we have there have done some really great things. Jen Van Laar, some of you might know, is the one who busted Katie Hill. She wrote that story, and now Katie Hill's gone. We've had a long storied history, but we've also been moving in new directions. For instance, I'm also the host of RedState Live, a show that happens every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at noon Eastern on YouTube. Because I was at one point in time a Twitch streamer, or I still am a Twitch streamer, twitch.tv/themorse code. And I wanted to bring that kind of energy and that kind of newness, that kind of ingenuity that they kind of had over there to the conservative movement and kind of give it something different. So we have a chat interactive show those 3 days a week so that we're doing that too. And it's just gotten really exciting. We've really blown up, gotten way more popular than we've ever been, actually. And I'm really excited about the opportunities that that kind of website can afford, not just myself, but the movement in general.
Julio?
Yeah, hi. So Julio Rosas, senior writer at Townhall. Townhall is a sister site to RedState, and Brandon here is a great guy. Basically, one of the things that Townhall really sets itself apart is that in addition to our columnists that we've become known for, the fact that one of the reasons why they hired me is because back in 2019, I set the expectation as like, well, whenever there's a protest or a riot, I wanted to go out and cover that. And then 2020 happened, and we definitely got more of our fair share of that kind of employment agreement. And that's one of the things I really appreciate about Townhall is because oftentimes when we see in the media bubble circles in New York City or Washington, D.C. or even Los Angeles, there's a lot of news cycles that to the rest of the country, to large parts of the country, doesn't even really register. Not because, maybe not because it's not important, but there might be some other things that they might be focused on. And so Town Hall gives me the freedom to be able to go out and cover those types of stories. After the riots, thankfully, ended, unfortunately, we've been seeing a lot of, the southern border, being thrown into disarray under this administration. And so, while I remember one of the first times I went down to the border, there was a whole news cycle about something that Marjorie Taylor Greene said, and I completely forgot what it was. And I was just so thankful I was not adding fuel to that, because we were having a historic increase in illegal immigration in places that had never seen anything like that before. And so that's one of the things I appreciate about working at Town Hall, and that's why sites like ours exist, because while the rest of the mainstream media might focus on news cycles that are either false, here in Florida, like the Don't Say Gay bill, or maybe things that shouldn't have as much attention as they should, we fill in those gaps, and that's why we have jobs.
So I think one of the big things, one of the reasons why, and by the way, I didn't introduce myself at the beginning here. I'm Matt Boyle. I run our DC bureau at Breitbart, so all of our politics coverage.
Legend.
But I think the thing that kind of allows us as new media institutions to kind of step up and start beating these establishment media gods to the point where, like those statistics I just read to you guys that show us that we're crushing them all combined, is we chase down stories that the rest of the establishment media are just not interested in. You mentioned the Katie Hill story, the stuff that you're doing, Julio, when you're going out there and just covering, all you're doing is just putting a camera on these guys and just showing them who they are. That's what we kind of do as well. We'll chase down stories that the rest of the media is just totally ignoring. A really good example of this is Brexit in 2016. Breitbart was kind of on that. And then obviously the rise of Donald Trump. But there's other ones too, whether it be, various elections, whether it be various trends, whether it be whatever. We're kind of ahead of the curve on those things. So I kind of want to ask both of you guys, lay out some stories that, your various institutions have been ahead of the curve on and beat the establishment media to.
Man, one of the lessons that I've really learned, and it's something that I've had it hammered into me the entire time I've been at this Student Action Summit, was I never graduated high school. I'm a high school dropout. And you would think that, especially in my industry with all these people who have all these degrees and, they have these big tags to their name. They worked at the New York Times, the Washington Post, and stuff like that. They're not really doing you any service whatsoever. They are actually harmful overall to society from what I've experienced. You don't need to have a fancy degree. You don't need to have these bylines and stuff like that to your name in order to make a difference. You can literally change somebody's mind, go out, bring down congressmen, just because you tried, just because you worked, just because you put forth the effort and did something. Jesus didn't have a degree, and look at what he did. Yes. It's not, you don't have to be some big important person. Get out there and do something. Just put forth the effort, work your butt off, and trust me, at some point in time, it'll pay off. It will pay off. You don't, and I started at RedState as more or less a nobody, and I'm not saying I'm somebody, but I've been able to generate an audience. I've been able to change people's minds. I have had the privilege to come and speak to you today, all because of that. So don't think that you have to be somebody. You are somebody already.
Yeah, definitely during 2020 and the first riot that I went to in Minneapolis, right when everything first started, I initially thought that, okay, I'm going to cover this, and then it'll eventually stop, and then I'll just go home, and then that'll be that. But unfortunately, we saw repeated instances where people's initial reaction to anything was to start riots and start terrorizing American cities. And you actually beat me, because I did finish high school, but I didn't finish college. I dropped out of college.
By the way, guys, I finished my college degree. I dropped out of my grad school degree. I dropped out of master's school. So we're all
dropouts here.
Like, and look at us. We're beating the entire establishment media. But anyway, go ahead.
And so, more again, really agreeing with Brandon's point is that all I had to do in these situations where I'm going from city to city was just film what was going on, because as something as simple as that, it was very important, because what we saw throughout 2020 it was members of the mainstream media, Democratic Party, were trying to minimize, excuse away, or justify mass lawlessness that was affecting everyday Americans, many of whom were already struggling with the negative effects of the disastrous COVID-19 lockdowns. And so I really made it my mission that year to really highlight real Americans and their suffering. Of what they were going through, because it was all okay according to the rest of the mainstream media, because this was being done in the name of social justice or racial equity or whatever you want to call it. But people were really hurt. Everyday Americans who had nothing to do with Jacob Blake or George Floyd or any of the other situations. And so that's why I wrote a book. I never thought I'd write a book about
It's a great book.
about anything. It's called Fiery but Mostly Peaceful. Shout out to CNN for that title. The 2020 Rise and the Gaslighting of America. And because not only did I want to relay my story, because I saw a lot, I probably saw a little too much, but I also wanted to include the stories of everyday Americans who were forgotten by the rest of the media, because this is history, and unfortunately, a lot of the mainstream media didn't want to accurately report on what was happening because of who was carrying out those attacks. And so, again, I did this as someone who was, at the time, I was still in the Marine Corps Reserves, but hadn't finished college, didn't really have any of the fancy pedigrees that some of the other people in the establishment class within the media have. And I think that's really important to show that, because a lot of people who get into journalism, they think they have to not only get their undergrad, but also get their graduate degree for journalism. I'm just thinking, what? That is, yeah, it's insane. So if you're going to college, I'm not saying you have to drop out or anything, but
yeah,
I'm just saying.
We're not advising that.
That's not what I'm saying.
Like, yeah.
But success is possible, with going, kind of off the beaten path, and I think we're testaments to that.
Yeah.
Not to toot our own horn, but
I got started really in 2011 with Misfit Politics when Ezra Doulis and I were creating Attack Watch.
Editors here at Breitbart now.
Yeah, exactly.
You guys were just kind of doing a random blog out there, right?
Yeah, it was kind of like it had funny, that TPUSA attitude before TPUSA existed. Yeah.
So that's kind of where I want to go next, because I think this is, first off, what Charlie's doing here with Turning Point, just absolutely incredible. I mean, I've been tracking it for years. This is my first Turning Point event. I've done a bunch of other events in the political universe, but I've never done a Turning Point event. And seeing 5,000 students from all around the country getting together here. First off, the fact that you guys are, sometimes, going up against pretty hardcore leftist faculty people and student administrators. I mean, I know it's tough. Having gone through it myself, I think these guys have gone through it too. But the future is very bright when you do get out of college, and the work you're doing now is going to prepare you to, if you choose to join institutions like ours, we're all kind of, we're continuing to grow, and there's other conservative groups in the ecosphere out here that are also growing. So I think kind of where I want to go next with this is all of us kind of lay out how we got to where we are, how we got started when we were leaving school, and then some advice for these guys on how to get when they're leaving college and they're looking for career opportunities. If they so choose to join us in the fight for a new media class, how would they do it? So I'll kind of start with me. My story is a little bit, so I went to college for a journalism degree, undergrad. I finished undergrad. I went to a small school up in Northeast Florida called Flagler College. And when I graduated there, I never was really political in college. I never really expected to be in politics. I thought I was going to go work for like Rolling Stone magazine or something and cover bands, and I had no idea that I was going to end up in politics. When I graduated, I was set up to go to a master's degree at American University in DC, and this was in 2010 and the rise of the Tea Party movement, and there were Tea Party rallies all across the country. I decided to go out and cover one, and I went looking for all the racists, because that's what they told me I was going to find when I got there. I didn't find any. I found good people who were concerned about their country, and I found out that the media was lying. And so when I showed up at American University, I showed up a radicalized conservative and questioning everything that they were teaching us. There were a bunch of assignments in school. They were telling us things like, America is Islamophobic. Explain why. And I was like, no, it isn't. You were wrong. And I questioned them. And so I was constantly butting heads with the professors. I ended up leaving the school, and I ended up joining the staff at Daily Caller. I was a reporter for Daily Caller for 2.5 years before I moved over to Breitbart. That's through my work at Daily Caller. That's how I got to know. I'm working with Tucker, so everybody sees Tucker Carlson on Fox, and
You might have heard of him.
He's doing great. So he was my first editor, and so through Tucker I got to know Andrew Breitbart and Steve Bannon. So then I moved over to Breitbart after the 2012 election, and then we've built out what we've built out here. But guys, tell us your stories. How did you guys get to this stage?
Man, yeah. So I started in 2008 just writing little blog posts. And then got on Twitter, and then I started getting an offer to write for some people and these other blogs, and the entire time I'm like working other jobs. I was a security guard, and then at one point in time I worked at GameStop, and I'm writing these conservative blogs the entire time, and kind of going to CPACs, going out, meeting people, forming a community. Founded Misfit Politics in 2011 with Ezra Doulis. And we created the Attack Watch video, and that blew up, got on Fox News, and
Attack Watch.
Attack Watch. We created a lot more videos after that, and then over time, Misfit Politics kind of ran its course, faded away, and I transferred from one site to another. And I always say that I'm here by accident. I didn't mean to fall into politics; I just kind of did, because I wanted to be a culture writer. I got a gig at The Escapist and everything, and I was going to write there, and then cancel culture came for me. They didn't like me writing, a conservative writing for a video game culture website, comic book, stuff like that. Especially somebody who took part in Gamergate. They didn't like that at all. So that happened, and eventually I got bounced around from one website to another, and then finally landed on RedState. Went to work for the Blaze for a little bit, and then came back to RedState. And yeah, now I've got RedState Live. I'm Deputy Managing Editor of the website, and it's been a really, really long journey. And if there's one thing that I can tell you guys, be patient. Be real patient. We live in a time where everything's instant gratification nowadays. They push that on people a lot. They push a lot of instant gratification on people. Anything worth doing takes time. Anything that you build and build well takes time. Building an audience takes time. A lot of these people that you see, these influencers, and even some of the people at TPUSA, they didn't just arrive here out of the blue. Like, they put in a lot of time, work, and effort. And again, I started working in 2008 on this, and now I'm here on this stage with these two dudes. So, yeah. And I'm proud of that.
Tell us your story, brother.
Yeah, I mean, so actually I worked at Turning Point way back in 2014 to 2015, going into 2016. So it's kind of weird going from that to now being here on stage. And so, but again, to Brandon's point, like it took a lot of work. The thing that convinced me to go into journalism full time and to drop out of college was actually Trump winning in 2016, because I saw the media coverage of his campaign, and I just naturally assumed, okay, well, if the media coverage of the campaign was crazy, the coverage of the administration is going to be just as crazy, if not more. And also just the fact that Trump's the X factor, so who knows what he's going to do. So there's going to be a lot to work with. And so I remember I told my parents, hey, I'm dropping out of college to go into journalism. And surprisingly, my dad, who does have a college degree, was the most easiest to convince. And my mom took a little bit more convincing, but she finally got on board, because I laid out not just one plan, but several plans in case maybe this whole journalism thing didn't work out. And so I moved out to Washington, D.C. because that's where I got an internship in 2017, and I've been out there ever since. And so I'm not saying, for those of you who are interested in journalism, you have to throw yourself into a riot to be successful, but it did take a lot of work. It did take a lot of effort because, especially within the conservative world and the conservative media world, it's not going to be given to you. You have to, we're going to have to work for the success because, especially now, obviously the mainstream media has a very, very serious credibility problem, and for good reason, right? I mean, they did that to themselves. And so, for people who want to get into journalism, especially within the conservative realm, this is a very good time to get into the media because a lot of Americans are hungry for just basic facts and truth because they're not getting it from a lot of the other main places that people read on a daily basis. And so, if you are going to enter into this world, it's a good time. You're just going to have to work for it. And, I certainly put in my time and effort into getting to where I am today.
Yeah, so now the establishment media institutions are slowly but surely falling apart. Now, we just saw this year the president of CNN, Jeff Zucker, was pushed out, and now they've got a new president. And I saw this new guy that they've got in charge was running around Capitol Hill last week trying to go explain to all the leaders on both sides that CNN is still relevant and trying to show them statistics and whatever. Well, I mean,
He says so.
yeah, I mean, if the CNN's president says that CNN is good, then CNN must, they're totally in trouble. These establishment media institutions are laying people off in a big way. The beauty is that these new media organizations, Breitbart, RedState, Townhall, I think are growing and always looking for new, exciting young people. And this is one of the things that we're always looking for at Breitbart. I mean, I'll tell you right now, every time I run into people, I'm always recruiting. I'm always looking for new people to bring in. We've started dozens and dozens, hundreds of careers at Breitbart. And I'm here to tell you, again, we are hiring. So if you guys are looking for opportunities out there, we are always looking for the next generation, new, young, exciting people to come aboard. I think we're always looking for, I think one of the things that, you guys should be doing if that is a career that you want to pursue, several skills that I think you need to be building are learning how to write, learning how to communicate, learning how to, video is definitely a place that learning how to shoot, edit, and cut video is a very important thing. Learning how to work with audio, etc. All those skills. What skills would you guys say these guys need to learn to break into this field?
I mean, yeah, I would advise being a jack of all trades, to be honest with you. You just kind of hit on it right there. I mean, learn how to write well for sure, but also learn how to edit video and do Photoshop, you don't have to be a master at it. I mean, if you look at my Photoshop work that I have from time to time, it is not the best, but at least I'm a little competent, and it allows me to, have some opportunities to get videos out that look at least a little attractive. But, I mean, have confidence in what you do, it doesn't have to be the best, it doesn't have to be perfect, but do try. Just get out there, start playing around with it at first, and develop a skill over it. And that's, honestly, over a short period of time, you'll actually get way more competent than you are today.
Yeah, I would just say that, if this is a career path you want to go into, I would definitely always try to volunteer to go outside of, one of the big cities because, unfortunately, just because of how things are, well, maybe not so much because COVID has probably changed a few things, but, the reason why I went to Washington, D.C. was because that's where a lot of the media places were. And, admittedly, that's where a lot of things do happen. But Washington, D.C. is not the only place in America where things are happening. And so, getting out of the bubble, that just naturally happens. Admittedly, I get complacent every once in a while. But that's why I always want to go out and travel on behalf of Townhall to actually go see what other Americans across this country. I mean, this is a big country, right? I mean, just going down to the southern border to different areas that I hadn't been to before and seeing how they live and seeing what they're facing and what's important to them is really what helps set us apart, again, from the rest of the media class. And so, I would definitely advise to not just solely focus on Capitol Hill or the White House. The White House press corps, in my opinion, is sort of highly overrated, with a few exceptions.
Yeah.
But part of that reason is because they just stay there, or every once in a while they might go out and see how real Americans are. But setting yourself apart would, one, just be honest, just be factual. I mean, you think that would be indicative, just inherent with any journalist, but as we've seen, that's not always the case. And so, if you're just honest, just number one, you're already leagues ahead than a lot of the other people in this industry.
And don't beat yourself up when you make mistakes as well, because you're going to make a lot of them. You will. But don't beat yourself up over it. Get discouraged. Keep pushing forward.
Okay, so we got a few minutes left here. The next thing I would ask you guys about is, okay, we're looking at this, getting back to that broader theme of a war that Andrew Breitbart talked about, that we've got to defeat the establishment media. We're winning the war. How do we win the war? How do we finish this thing off? How do we beat these guys? What are the next major steps here beyond? What does the future of the new media class look like?
Oh, man. Well, here's the thing. You say win the war, but I'm not sure the war will ever be done. To keep this up is a constant battle. So be ready for the long fight. Once you get into this, you're in it, man. And fight hard. Be anxious for the fray, as they say. But to your question, the new media landscape is, if I'm going to be completely honest, it's going to look completely different, I think, in 10 years. I think that there are technologies coming out that are going to change the way that we actually do politics. I mean, you just look at, Instagram. Instagram did arrive on the scene a long time ago, but I notice a lot of politics being done through Instagram nowadays. Love it or hate it, TikTok has become the most viral platform for videos, and so much politics and messaging goes through TikTok that it would actually blow your mind. Who knows what it's going to look like in a long time, but, keep up with that. Keep up with the new technologies that are coming out. Where are your opportunities going to be? Where is the iron hottest? Strike that. Take advantage of every single opportunity that you get when you hear about it. You never know when the next big thing is going to happen, and you want to be on that wave to ride it and get yourself, not just yourself, but your message out there. And I would say, again, keep at it. Don't stop.
Yeah, I would say it would definitely be to be flexible for those who are want to get into this industry, because a lot of I never expected to go out and cover all the near downfall of the United States in 2020, but I did, and I learned a lot from those experiences. One of which is avoid rubber bullets being shot by police. That was a painful lesson, but I learned it. But for those who are just want to consume our products, not to sound too corporate, but just for the audience, it would just be support organizations like ours. I mean, we don't have these massive billion-dollar corporation backings that some of the at least comparable to like what some of these other mainstream media outlets are. I mean, for Townhall, we have a VIP subscription that funds a lot of things, and actually like it funds my travels to the border. I recently did a trip to Chicago over the 4th of July weekend, covering shootings that were happening over there, because unfortunately we've seen violent crime increase, not just in Chicago, but in other cities. So that takes time, that takes effort, and that takes resources. And I'm able to do those things because people like you go out and support Townhall and RedState too, and all these other places. So definitely be flexible. Definitely support the places that you like, because who knows? Not just the media landscape, but the political landscape. Just because things are a little kind of scary at the moment.
A little bit. So, cultural landscape too, I would say as well.
Exactly.
Be sure to stay on top of that.
Be aware.
Andrew Breitbart would say all the time, politics is downstream of culture.
Right. And by the way, speaking of Andrew Breitbart, again, a decade ago, he held up his phone and told everybody, this is all you need, right? Like, you really don't need a big fancy camera crew or anything like
Correct.
that. All you really need is a phone and a laptop, and you guys can go out there and change the world. Just chase down a big story, anything like that. By the way, I think the Turning Point guys have our contact info. If you guys want to put that up there, and everybody take it down, because if you want to work in our field, we definitely want to hear from you guys, and these are our email addresses, all of us, right? Like, so write those down and take those notes, because we definitely want you guys to reach out to us and communicate with us. That's what this is all about. Any one of you guys can go out there. You can change the world. You break one story, you put it out there. If you find some interesting new information, or find some new voices, or talk to some new people, it really, one story can change the world. It can really change things. So I really want to thank you guys, and
Thank you, man.
Good panel here. So we're going to win the war.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank you guys.